Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan. The New Orleans Saints unfortunately just missed out on the 2023 NFL playoffs. They did end up getting a lot of revenge on their rivals, the Atlanta Falcons, and it wouldn't be a Saints season without a little bit of Jameis Winston's controversy. We won't get into that, but what we will get into, we will recap the 2023 NFL season. And the first half of the video, the second half of the video, we will preview the 2024 offseason with the draft picks, key free agents, and some other team needs that I think they need to address. Before we get into all that, be subscribe and ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new content. Coming up within the next week or so, Ryan and I will be releasing a 3-round mock draft for the New Orleans Saints. I'll be our first one of multiple mock drafts that we will do that's team specific to the Saints, and also one for every single NFL team. 7-round mock drafts, and also other 3-round mock drafts as well, leading up to the NFL draft. So be sure to like, subscribe. Ryan, let's pull up our slide here. They ended up going 9-8 here. They had one of the. We were actually just talking about this live. This is team offensive stats. So they ended up having the 11th best passing team in the league. I think part of that also too was the few amount of sacks that they gave up. But in general, though, Chris Olave broke 1,000 yards. Just watching the Saints, it just always felt like their offense would just stall, especially for big portion of the season. Towards the end of the season, they did get a little bit better. So maybe it was Derek Carr getting used to the offensive system, playing with his new team. But I always felt, especially in the first half of the season and in the middle portion of the season, they would have these good drives, but then they would just stall at like the 30 or 20 or something would happen then where they would get out of field goal range, or they'd have to settle for a field goal. And I felt like they left a lot of touchdowns off the board. So Saints fans, me saying that, I want to hear your thoughts as well about that. I feel like Derek Carr was okay. I don't think he's worth $40 million a year is what they gave him. I don't think he's worth that personally. But at the same time, we'll say I think he's better than Jameis Winston. So take that with yourself.
I don't think that's a big debate there or a controversial statement. For me, the big thing that I noticed was just kind of what you mentioned, but I felt like a lot of times, especially early on in the season, and maybe this got a little bit better, but they were big player bust. They really struggled to hold drives like in and out of each possession. So like they would, a lot of their drives were just fueled off of explosive plays. And so I would be really curious to see how many of these yards or where they ranked in the league in just explosive plays per game, because I think you look at Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, like all of those guys are built for explosive plays. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I really think this running defense, you could feel the losses of David Onyemata. Cam Jordan is getting older. They only put up 34 sacks this year. And that they did get a good bit of turnovers there with 29, but still, I just feel like they probably, I think, took advantage of some weaker teams in the division for the turnovers. They struggled to get pressure, and their passing defense was good. They do have good corners led by Marshawn Lattimore, but I think this running defense just isn't where it needs to be. And yeah, I just think the Saints, all in all, like I feel like the rest of the league was like the Saints are a good but not great team. And I feel like Saints fans had really high expectations going into this year with the money that they had spent on David Carr. And all in all, I just felt a little disappointed with the Saints organization going and making that move and trying to establish itself as like the lead franchise in that division, and then falling short for the third year in a row.
Yeah, well, and that's I think this channel has been going on now. I think this is the 4th offseason that this channel has been around now, and I feel like every year they're always the team that's last in cap space. They're at last in cap space now, and we're going to get into that here in a second. But I feel like when you're kind of in that situation of trying to figure out cap space, either like just trying to extend players or give players bonuses just so they can stay on the roster, I feel like that you're very dependent on the draft and developing these players, and that doesn't pan out all the time. Trust me, as a Falcons fan, it doesn't pan out all the time. And so, well, shoot, you're a Patriots fan too. You guys don't really draft that well either. So, but that's where I think
hopefully
I look at it. Yeah, I know. So as of right now, their estimated cap space is negative $75.8 million. It was Spot Track as of I would think we're recording this January 17th. I think that was as of January 14th when we were putting these slides together. So I had to go back and double check. And I say that now, depending on when you watch this video, that number might change, fluctuate a little bit, depending on what the actual end up salary cap will be going into the 2024 season. But the biggest thing to me, though, that jumped out to me, and I think one of the reasons also too why I felt there was always this kind of stall and the Saints offense couldn't really capitalize on the drives, or I always felt like why they just kept dumping off to Alvin Kamara, was their offensive line as a whole. And they have a lot of offensive free agents here. Andres Pete, James Hurst, Trey Turner, all guys that did end up playing some time, if not a significant amount of time for their the team. Look at it right now. Andres Pete is their starting left tackle, according to their depth chart as well. And then James Hurst also, and then Trey Turner. Actually, I think both those guys actually ended up getting hurt. Ryan Ramczyk also got hurt as well. Trey Turner's on IR. And then where's James Hurst? Why am I missing James Hurst on? He's the starting left guard. Sorry, I don't know why. I just completely missed that. So that right there, to me, already for a team that I think is struggling to move, have one of the worst offensive lines to begin with. Now they're nearly $-80 million in the hole when it comes to salary cap. And you also mentioned, too, one of the better defensive players is getting up there in age. Also, too, Marshawn Lattimore. How old is Marshawn Lattimore again?
It's got to be 29.
Yeah, and he was on IR, too, for the majority of the season also.
Yeah.
Yeah, since week 12.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here now. 96. Yeah, so he's a year younger than me. So, yeah, so he's 27. He'll be 28 this year.
Okay.
So not too old for
I would
for an
say
player.
He's ending his prime years now.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
So,
but the biggest thing for me, and kind of getting into like the big picture for the Saints, is like they've been in cap hell for 3 seasons now, and they just cannot seem to really get out of it. And my biggest thing is, so I'm a Patriots fan. We kind of saw this in 2020 with the Patriots, right? Like they had -$35 million in cap space, and they were like, all right, we're just going to eat it this year, right? Like we're just like all of this negative cap is going to come off the books now. And then the next year they went out and they broke the records for the most amount of money spent in free agency because they didn't have any negative cap. They had a lot of people ready to be renewed, and they spent like $150 million in free agency that year. And I think the Saints are primed to do that this year, especially with the situation that they're in. Derek Carr is going to be there. This offensive line needs to be rebuilt. I really like Michael Thomas is out. He's another guy that I believe is either he's a cut candidate or he's a free agent. There's just a lot of speculation that he's not going to be with the team next year.
I will say they've been saying that for the past couple of years, though. Like, so they might need him because I'm just reconfirming right now, making sure I didn't miss anybody. He's not a free agent as of right now. They have him under contract.
Okay.
And so sorry, just to add on to that point, and I think it's possible. But then with Rashid Shaheed also being a free agent now, and where they're at currently, I don't know how they re-sign him. And then also cut Michael Thomas. Then that just leaves Chris Olave. I mean, A.T. Perry did have a good year, so
but
all things considered.
But again, like they've kind of put themselves in this situation where it's like they have to make these hard decisions, and all they're doing that all while putting together. They're 9-8. It's a subpar, that's about right at average product in the NFL, and just not an ideal situation for them. I do like on the team needs you put get younger and head coach. That would be an interesting one. There were some reports that the Saints would be interested in potentially going after an experienced head coach like a Bill Belichick or John Harbaugh.
I think that was probably, I will say, of that Falcons Saints game. I know the final scoreboard was the Saints won, but I think we ended up winning because that made us fire our coach, and I think then y'all ended with a winning season. And so now you guys are keeping Dennis
you guys are
Allen.
picking 8th, and they're at 13 or 14.
14 here, and I'll get to the draft picks here in a second, but I put those points just because, as you kind of already mentioned, Cameron Jordan, some of their key guys are getting older as well. Michael Thomas is another one. I would still throw him up there. Alvin Kamara, and even Derek Carr. I mean, quarterbacks are different, but Derek Carr's 32, And I mean, this is probably his last big contract, so to say. But they have a lot of free agents as well, and so they just need to get younger. I think they just need to go into this rebuild now. But they've pushed off this money. They pushed this off now for a long time. How are they going to do it? And then to my final point, I talk about all that. They don't really have the draft capital to try and make a big splash, to bring in like big playmakers without just bringing in projects or hoping for like a Puka Nacua. But they have their first round pick. They have Denver's second round pick, and then they don't have any picks for day 2 at all. So and even then too, they don't even have to show up till halfway through day 3 till their next pick. So are they a potential trade back candidate? Try and get some more picks, but what kind of value are they going to get? You know, like
they'd have to trade way back. Like I think New England in 2020 traded the 23rd overall pick for like 36 and 68. So like to put that in perspective, like I think they could get a team to potentially move up from the second round to here and get a first next year, potentially.
Potentially. So I mean, that would be such a big move up, but maybe so. And that's what I'm talking about. So this is where what we've been saying really for the past couple of years. Now we're saying it again. Is just they're just in this position. How are they going to manage everything? How are they going to? They're just going to extend these players, give these bonuses, so they can just push the cap space on later on. But then at the same time, though, and that's fine doing that. But I think they're going to end up. Their team is just good enough to go 8-9, 9-8. Dennis Allen is just a good enough coach to get you to 8-9, 9-8.
It's not going to be a game changer.
Yeah. And then at the same time, too, you're picking in a place. I know it's first-round pick, but you're still picking in a place where it's like a first-round bust. What was it said? You told me one time it's like half of players picked in the first round would be classified as like a bust or something like that.
Yeah, it's like half the players that are drafted in the first round don't sign a second contract with the team.
That's what it was. I think that's what it was. Yeah, which it's like I mean, so now you're picking at 14. Like that's
which to put in perspective, that's like I think it's. On day 2, a third of those players sign a second contract with their teams, and then like a fourth to a fifth of day 3 players sign a second contract with their team. So
so we'll just have to see. Those are just kind of my key points. We'd love to hear from Saints fans in the comment section, like how you guys. Well, not really how you guys thought about how the 2023 season went. Because I'm sure it's the exact same on how Ryan and I thought our team season went. And so, just your overall thoughts on the outlook and what you guys think you should do with the team.
Yeah. So again, like Tyler said, let's wrap it up here. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Let us know down below what you think of the Saints organization. Do you think they should just eat this negative $75 million cap space? Do you want to see them go and restructure Taysom Hill for the 17th year in a row? Let us know down below. Know that we'll see you guys next time.